Welcome to the Akashic Reading Podcast, presented by AkashicReading.com, the place where you can learn to access your soul's wisdom, or at least stop digging the hole any deeper. I'm your host, Terry Uktana, and today we'll be seeing how to unstick things by taking on a Lego perspective. As an Akashic reader, my days are filled with clients telling me, I really want to insert activity here, but I can't because... This is then followed by us working through what is required for them to do the thing, which is often very much doable regardless of the but. From this, I can say the two most common stuck points for people in achieving what they want are, 1, they don't have the necessary components at this time to make them happen, such as resources, time, support, knowledge, skill, or finances. 2, they need to empower themselves in some way. Whether this is changing the narrative or narratives they tell themselves, claiming an identity which includes the thing they want, unwinding the life structure they've manifested so they can build a new one, or valuing themselves enough to invest in their truth. Ironically, the first one is the one most people will point to as insurmountable, but in reality is the easiest to map out a solution for. No matter whether your desire is to create things, travel places, or have experiences, the resources are out there. In fact, there are entire industries dedicated to making sure we can get resources in any way we desire, from networking sites, barter communities, auctions, service marketplaces, and so on. If we can imagine it, there are ways to get it done for even the most outrageous pie-in-the-sky dreams. The much harder problem is allowing ourselves to connect with what we want, as this almost always involves taking on personal transformation. Well, rather, the process of doing what a person really wants causes a transformation of that person over time. Okay, so oftentimes both. For example, a client wants to be an artist, but they know they can't because they're married and have a career. Their narrative is there just isn't time. Between what their spouse wants, the overtime, maintaining the house, their travel schedule, it just isn't feasible. In this situation, being an artist is completely possible, but two things would need to change: the narrative being told and where the person's energy is being invested. The narrative being presented here is everything in the person's life is more important, relevant, and necessary than being an artist. But what if that weren't true? What if the narrative were changed so that being an artist was equal to maintaining the house, the overtime work, and the travel schedule? What if doing art was something which could be equivalent to daily hygiene like toothbrushing? With just this internal shift, being an artist goes from something impractical, quote-unquote someday, and hopeless to completely in reach within 24 hours. The but has been removed. So how do you get unstuck when it seems like the issue is so ancient, insurmountable, and implacable as the La Brea tar pits? Well, see your life from a Lego perspective. We build our lives through our intentional actions, our reactions to circumstances, and the opportunities we take on or pass by. Which means every piece of our lives is a Lego we've fit together in a certain way. But Legos are built to be infinitely repurposed. We can pull them apart, fit them together in a different way, and have an entirely new thing. I recommend starting with the statement, I want to, but take the I want to Lego and remove it from the but Lego. Then add it to a new Lego called So I Get To. The new narrative is then I want to, so I get to. As what we say is what manifests as truth within us and therefore out into the world, when we change our narrative in this way, it becomes a reality which sets things in motion. Also, the universe won't punish you for doing what you're here to do. We don't have only one sole purpose, we have hundreds. They're often interconnected, of varying lengths and complexities, and rarely require a life of excruciating hardship with brief teases of happiness. Often, what we think of as frivolous, indulgent, selfish, or a waste of time is a key component to what we're meant to be and do in this life. The universe doesn't punish us when we engage in the urge which has been nagging us forever, because honoring our own divinity is one of the most core things we as souls can and should do. And in our doing so physically in this life, we are giving permission to others to do so as well. Which is not to say everything will necessarily be smooth sailing. Investing energy into the thing you want to do and be could lead to a need for boundary setting. While uncomfortable, this helps us and others learn lessons. It can build self-esteem, teach others around us how to do and be in the world, and lead us to further unfold our gifts and abilities into this life. All from something as seemingly inconsequential as knitting or building kit cars. So keeping yourself from doing the thing or things you really want to do is actually a bit selfish, counterproductive, and negative to yourself and others. The more you're being you, the better. And you have time. Unless you're a new parent of an infant, have 5 children under the age of 10 all at home, or you're the sole caregiver to someone who needs 24-hour care. It doesn't matter how busy you are, you're choosing where and how to spend your valuable time. So choose differently. Too often we focus on big plans, whole archetypal shifts of identity, or overwhelming goals which validate our inability to fit them into the life we're living and keeps us from moving forward. What I recommend is letting go of all of it. Just let it go. Believe it or not, if these things are meant to be, they will manifest naturally and of our own accord in time. Most often, these big things come into being as a consequence, not of our massive efforts to force them through mental battles and sacrifice, but instead because we are being in each day how we desire to be. Instead, focus on what you do best, focusing on today. You have control over your day, so invest some of it in doing or being what it is you want. Give yourself 30 minutes. Do it first thing in the day, or during lunch, or right after work. Never let it be the last thing at the end of the day, because it will never happen, and you'll feel betrayed in the bargain. Set aside a moment to do something, a piece, a part of what it is you want to be doing. If you can, increase the amount of time each day and look for larger blocks of time on the weekends. And if you really need to look at the big picture, think of what you'll be grateful for or regret more: lawn care and honeydews getting done, or having manifested your best self into the world. And then there's the 10,000 hours. We have an odd relationship to our passions and time. Our culture has decided everything has to be done well or not at all. We deify the best, look at excellence as the measure of success, and go even further by needing people to be unique, niche, and extraordinary in some way. At the same time, we deride what is weird, quirky, different, as if these weren't judgmental ways to speak about two sides of the same coin. If you aren't participating in a thing regularly, putting in your 10,000 hours of practice, then you'll never get anywhere. I once heard an interview with the artist Flora Bowley where she was asked about her instant success, and she laughed out loud and then asked if the interviewer were referring to the 17 years she spent starving, living in her car, having showings in her living room, that kind of thing. That instant success? Every journey starts with the first step. Very few to no one is an expert right out the gate, no matter what stories the salespeople tell you. In this embodied life, we don't control everything, but often we manifest and influence far more than we're willing to admit. Just changing "but" to "so I get to" will put a spotlight on where we're able to enact change, release ourselves from our stuckness, and move forward into happiness. We don't necessarily have to suffer for what we want to be, but we do have to engage in being it. The good thing is, it's something we enjoy, so no matter what ends up coming into being, the journey is fun. And that's all the time we have this week. If you're interested in knowing more, check out my website, akashicreading.com. Thank you to my patron of honor this week, C. Matheny. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider supporting it by subscribing on Patreon. For just $5 a month, you can join in weekly patron-only classes, see all my other offerings, and get regular updates about what I'm working on at patreon.com/TerryUktana. Thanks. Bye.